He was.
Yeah.
It was like one for in the
He
finals.
can
I'm
bring
just
my boy
saying.
T
Oh,
up
he
here.
only
Who?
only went to 10 finals. You know,
T.
he wasn't that good, guys.
Hey, what's the
He lost
LeBron's
mine.
record in the
He got
finals,
J.
Cameron? Hey, Cameron, what's LeBron's record in the finals? Is he dominating or not? Is he less than 500? Is he dominating this era, Cameron? Let me ask you that question.
I'm just saying. Well, he is dominating in this era. I'm just saying Jerry West
Don't
was like
stutter. Just
in
answer the
that
question.
era.
How he lost more
You
finals
gotta
than he
think.
won.
You gotta think about. We're talking about the cream of
Are
the
we
crop
talking
of
about
that
this
generation.
civil rights ass basketball, bro? Let's keep it a band.
That's what I'm saying.
Evolution of the game alone, like, bro, like this is why I don't like talking old basketball.
Nobody's disagreeing with that.
No,
T.
but
You
Eli,
came in at
why
the
are we still
random
talking, bro?
time.
That nigga Jerry West shouldn't be the logo if we keeping it a band.
man.
Let's keep
I'm
it
trying
all the
to
way a
let T
band. No,
talk.
let's keep it all
What
the
do you
way a
mean by
band.
that?
I'm sick
Why
of this
shouldn't he be?
50s basketball shit. I'm
He was
sick
a
of it.
bucket getter. He was a bucket getter.
He was not no bucket getter.
Yes, he was. Go watch
Who
that
wasn't
shit.
the bucket getter? Who wasn't the bucket getter?
Man, put
No, he
put
really-
AI
Bro,
in
Jerry
any.
West could get
Bro,
a
y'all
bucket,
got it, bro.
You can't
Wait, Eli. Who you said was a bucket getter?
Jerry West was a
I said
bucket
Jerry
getter.
West was a bucket getter.
Jerry West was a bucket getter. What are you talking about?
That nigga was
Jerry West
mid.
is
Bro,
top.
Kobe-
Like,
Kobe-
that's
Jerry
top.
West, bro.
Like, I
Jerry
feel like
West
you
might
guys
have, bro.
messed this conversation up. You guys messed
Jerry
it up
West
when you
might
start
have
trying to
revolutionized the
compare
game
people
with the
who are
pull-up
way
jumper, bro. Like,
greater.
what are we talking about?
There are
Bro,
people you can
Kobe-
put, like, if you brought Larry
Kobe
Bird into the
told me Jerry
2020s, he's
West
still
was a bucket
killing it.
Nigga,
Like,
Kobe
you
got
can't
game
compare
from
that
Jerry
to the
West. What are you
regular
talking about?
players.
Yeah.
Because JJ's talking about average players. Average, not the cream of the crop.
Jerry West
Like,
is an all-time great, bro. Like, what we talking? It's the
that's
reason he's
different.
logo, bro. Yeah, like nigga.
I mean, if
even
we
you
talk
said
about
LeBron
wait,
should be
Dang,
the
let's
Jerry
keep
West
it a
not
band,
nigga.
though.
Jerry West would get
Evolution of
buckets in
game
any
alone,
era.
the top players of today to me, I think, are better than the top.
Jerry
players
West
of
would
our
get buckets in
generation.
any era, and you also have to admit, like,
What?
if yes,
Shit getting locked.
if
Oh
you're
my
great in the '60s, bro, if you're
Go
like
watch
Jerry West,
Jerry
like
West. Like, he's
if you're
Jerry
great
would be
in the
Luca
nigga,
at
bro,
this
what are you
point.
talking about?
No,
Bro,
hold
okay,
on.
wait.
Jerry would be
Hold up,
Luca
Betsy.
at
Hold up,
this
Betsy.
period.
Hold up, Betsy. If you watch Jerry West, right, and you actually know how Jerry West revolutionized the game, how great Jerry West was, right? Like, he introduced the pull-up jumper to the game, right? Like, he did things that they're just great, period, that revolutionized the game. Now, obviously, the things he's doing are not like hella special now because he started it, and now everybody else has picked up on it and evolved. Like, the game is gonna evolve. So, but when you have players like great players in these eras, they will adapt. Like, most great players will adapt, my nigga. Like, you to act like Jerry West wouldn't be a bucket getter in like almost any era is crazy. It's crazy.
Bro, nigga said he would be Luca. That's what I'm tripping about.
Yeah, I mean, shit.
Like,
wouldn't
Jerry
be
West, who
Rondo.
invented the pull-up jumper, wouldn't adapt to today's game. Like, come on now.
That nigga wouldn't be better than Rondo in today's game.
That doesn't
Okay,
make
all
no
right,
sense.
okay. That's crazy. Jerry
He's got
West is
the
definitely
what
clearing
about
Rondo.
it though?
What the
Because it's
fuck?
not the athleticism. He had a really high vertical. He was tall. Like,
He was a great defender.
He physically looks like he should play now, which is why, like, Oscar and them, they just look like different than the rest of those players. Like,
Yeah.
they look like
You don't think Oscar Robertson can play in this day's era?
No,
Oscar
Oscar
Robertson
can.
can touch the top of the backboard.
No, Oscar can. I'm not giving it to that nigga Jerry West though.
Oh, it's because Jerry West is white. Okay, never mind.
Nope,
All right.
that's not why. That is not
No,
why.
it is because he's
That's
white.
not
Bro.
why.
It's okay.
That's
It's
not
okay.
why. Because Oscar
It's
was
okay.
hooping
You're
against
prejudiced. You're
Negroes.
prejudiced. It's okay. You're
Nope,
prejudiced.
Oscar was real Negroes. Them niggas was hooping against
Jerry
white
West was
boys,
hooping against
plumbers
Oscar.
and shit. I'm not hearing this.
Jerry West was playing
My
against
My
Oscar.
nigga
What are you
Oscar
talking
was
about?
really
This is the
hooping against
problem.
Negroes.
This is the problem.
Jerry
It's a
West was
difference.
playing against
It's a
Oscar.
difference, Trey. When you hooping against Negroes,
Oscar
versus
came
hooping
in a
against
year
plumbers,
after
I'm not
Bob
trying to hear that.
Cousy.
Niggas
Oscar,
his same
bro,
height in today's league
Oscar
is killing
came
that
in
nigga.
the same
They is
time
killing
Cousy
that
came in.
nigga, Trey.
Oscar came in the late 50s. What are you talking about? Like, they played in the same era.
Nah, gang.
Yeah, this is the problem.
Okay.
By the way, T, you know
So
who
no,
West
get
wasn't
Drew
hooping
up here. Get DRB up
Foreigners.
here, bro. Because
He wasn't hooping
DRB,
with people
bro. You
in
know
the
what I said,
entire
bro.
world.
Get up here,
People
bro.
were
I'm not gonna
hooping.
lie. I'm not gonna lie. I
Giannis.
think
These are all
y'all
foreigners.
taking what I'm
T,
saying right now
you're
about
talking
50s
about
basketball way too
I'm
serious,
quoting
gang.
you, T. You're saying Negro. I'm not saying that. You're saying that T. Negroes. By the way, he's not playing with the rest of the world. Right now, the NBA is a global world, T.
Yeah, shout out Africa, gang.
Jokic, Luca. It ain't about race anymore, dude.
Giannis, my nigga, you can't throw Giannis in that
Look at the
motherfucker.
Man
foreigners.
forgot Giannis. That's crazy.
How the fuck you forget Giannis?
So many people. He's a
Yo,
Greek
why
freak,
can't I
but
do
from
that?
Africa.
Hey, Drew,
See,
why
he's
you
against
acting like
that,
Bob
dude.
Cousy was not mid, bro?
Trey
Like,
the
Bob
Cousy.
Cousy wasn't.
Oh wait, can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? Yo, give me some emojis if y'all can hear me because my shit just wasn't working not too long ago. All right, bet.
Trey,
All
the Cousy thing was a troll.
Hey, Lo, I ain't gonna lie. You might drop a triple-double in 50s basketball. In 52, you might drop 20, 10, and 10. No
Bro, this
bullshit.
nigga ratioed me for a troll, bro. I hate you, bro. He gonna send it in the group chat like Trey, ... Like Bob Cousy was good, bro. Like, come on now.
I have
Bro,
the
I'm
power
5'5". I'm
head
dunking
Twitter.
on Bob Cousy, bro.
I hate you, Drew.
You'd be surprised how many old heads like instantly spammed you on that tweet.
Bro,
Which
bro,
is
my DMs
crazy.
are
Which is
flooded,
so crazy.
bro.
Which is so crazy.
Niggas
My
caping
mentions
for
are
Bob
flooded with
Cousy
people
is
saying
crazy.
Bob Cousy's good. Bob, what are you talking? Bob Cousy was a 13-time All-Star. Bob Cousy was a champion. Why are you saying this? Like, come on, bro. Like, Bob Cousy's not even good. He's not good. He's just not
Yeah,
good. It's a
wait. I got a
mid-off.
question though. Why did Jerry
Mid-off.
West like take up for Bob Cousy though?
Because
Because
he
they
wants to
played in the
defend his
same.
era.
I'm about to say.
That don't, nigga. That nigga some shit, nigga. Is niggas going cape for Patrick? Never mind, bro. Y'all got it, bro.
What if he was
Oh my
friends with
God.
Bob Cousy?
That's like,
Oh
bro.
yeah,
That's
they
like,
could be
This
friends.
conversation is fucking hilarious.
No,
man.
no.
I don't
They're,
give,
they're
bro.
like
If they
they're like
friends, though,
Also,
you don't
that's
gotta
the
lie
same
about that
thing.
nigga
That's
play.
the same
They
thing
got,
that
give
players
me
in like.
JJ Redick
That's
got a
the
Duke over his entire career.
that's
Real
the
shit.
same thing players in the '80s do. They always defend their guys purely because they don't want to make their era seem
Right.
soft.
Very simple.
But Jerry isn't really he's not really a 50s guy. Like he came
Yeah,
in
he's
the league
not
like
really.
This is
Yeah,
true.
I agree.
No, but
I
Bob
think that he
Cousy
played.
is though. Bob
What
Cousy some
what
shit.
he said was that at the end of his career, or sorry, end of Cousy's career, he played Jerry West. So like, even then, I feel like it's a matter of like defending your era because you don't want to
Yeah,
make
but
it seem like you were
But
hey,
the
playing.
DRV,
He literally said
keep it
2
a band
years, by the
though.
way.
Like,
but the but
you can name about 100 point guards that done went through the league. Now, it's some Drew League niggas right now I know better than Bob Cousy in his prime.
Yeah,
Like
the
no,
game.
like
We
no
literally
bullshit.
just said that the game evolves, right? Like
So like, why are we talking about Bob Cousy? Like, if we gonna talk, like Jerry
Hey,
West makes sense.
buddy,
Like for
because
buddy,
Jerry
combo,
buddy.
it
West,
makes sense to mention
Jerry
Jerry West.
West point,
But
Jerry
Bob
West
Cousy
point
don't
was
move a
that
soul, gang.
Jerry
But
West's
we talk
point was
about
that
Will Chamberlain. He was like 6'9".
Bob Cousy was a
Yeah.
really good basketball player and
I
very
don't count that. I
important to
don't
the
count
game.
that shit, gang.
I just disagree. I disagree with that.
I don't count
He
that
was
second
mid,
game
I'm
for
not
bro. He
even
was
basketball.
saying
mid
I'm not
tier.
even saying
He was
he's
not
right. I'm just
like the
saying his
best.
point isn't that like point guards today would be worse
Oh
than
yeah, for sure,
Cousy.
for sure. Yeah,
He's
for sure.
just saying like we should respect the older players because they're important to the
Do I
way the
really
game
have to
developed.
respect segregation basketball though?
But what is
Can you,
I don't think
can
that
you,
and maybe it's the tone of what he said. I don't understand why it's viewed as disrespectful by just stating the obvious that he played against plumbers.
Well, I think
Like,
West point to that because
Kyrie
like
playing against Twitch
listen,
streamers.
He did.
like listening to the Jerry West thing, his whole point with the plumbers comment is that yeah, these guys were plumbers and firemen, but that's because they literally weren't paid enough for basketball to be their only job. Like it
Okay.
wasn't like they were bad. It's just
And
that they had to take other jobs.
That's a fair statement. But because they had other jobs, that meant that they could not focus on basketball to the same players can now because they have the privilege to do so due to the amount of money that they make.
Like Ben
Which
They weren't as
Simmons.
good.
which means that they literally players back then literally could
Why
not
they be Twitch
reach.
streaming then, Lo?
Huh?
Why they be
What?
doing what you
come
do for a
on,
living?
man.
Oh,
What are we
but no,
talking about?
Eli, but you know what's so ironic about that? When niggas do Twitch stream, what do people say in the comment section? Oh, you need to be hooping, you need to be practicing. They be getting on Karl Anthony Towns all the time. They be like, yo, nigga, your Wolves losing again. Another
That's
losing year
only
for the
because he.
Wolves. You
That's
playing
only
video
because he sound a
games.
little. You know what I'm saying? They don't do
I
that to
mean,
get on
that's
fire.
deserved for Cat though. That nigga
No,
need
it's
to
No,
be.
but
not.
my point
Yes, it is.
my point is that they do the same
Because
thing.
girl better than
The
you.
concept of not being able to maximize the ability to grow as a player by deciding to play video games on Twitch and or being a plumber, because regardless if you have to or you choose to, still is the point of you are not maximizing the window. Nigga, it was a story that broke that Anthony Davis hadn't touched a basketball and literally everybody lost their mind. Oh my God, how dare
But
that man not be
but that was
working on
kind of
basketball 24/7?
Lo, the reason that's kind of dumb is because AD's already said that that's how he does his off season routine. Like
I get that, but you're missing my point. I'm not saying that it's all fucking dumb. What I'm saying is the logistics behind the expectations of a ball player to improve his game by taking the game serious enough to where it's damn near done year long. That is a privilege that only is only given to today's athletes. Meaning that even players back then, the true potential of what they were able to reach was never a reach for majority of those players because they didn't earn enough money. So instead of me actually taking the game serious enough for me to take the time out to actually continue to condition and play basketball in the off season, they didn't do that. So now the bar, the standard in which a basketball player is at, even for that period of time, is lower than what it probably even should be to begin with. And again, Bob Cousy has admitted this. He himself said that before he came in the NBA, He was not expected to be in the league. He never took the game serious. They just fucking called this nigga and said, "Hey, do you want to play here?" Like, if you just go listen to Bob Cousy's story, even he didn't take it serious, and he had to negotiate a certain amount to make sure that he would be able for it to be a compelling option for him. But even he didn't take it serious.
I think that's fair, Legend, and I think that the money has something to do with it. But I just want to say one thing though, like there's levels to this, right? So we see like people like I'm gonna go back to Kobe because he's my dude. Like you see people like literally putting their whole life onto it, and that matters. And I agree. Like Anthony Davis shouldn't have to answer to that. But here's the thing, like we're trying to simplify things to I guess there's no other way to say it, black and white, and it's not that simple. And you can't just say, "Here's my biggest issue, Legend." If I can, if he is trying to equate Jerry West with Bob Cousy, that's a bigger issue to me than trying to equate this era with any other era. This era is simply the best, and it
Man,
has to do
JJ Redick giving
with
that nigga
blacks
50.
being incorporated and foreigners being incorporated. It all matters. Literally, the last two MVPs in our league are foreign players. Like, actually, I'm wrong. The last three are foreign players, and that includes Giannis. Actually, is it four? God, it might be four. This is my whole point. Like, what are we doing here? Like, we have to
I think
expand.
what you're
Stop
missing.
thinking about the 19.
I think
By the
I
way,
think what he's
if you want to
missing
make
here
that next
is
progress, stop
we're
thinking
talking
about
about Bob
1950. Think
Cousy
about
and
now.
Bill Russell.
Think about
Like, look
now.
what happened to him when Bill Russell joined his team. I'm talking the same year, a couple years later. You have an African American join your team, and now all of a sudden you're a contender. Is that not crazy? And you're acting like Bill Russell did not exist before 1957. They
But
knew
think about
who he
today. You
was.
have a
They knew what
great
he was
black
doing.
American. There are no black
He
greats
was in
now,
college,
and
Hardini.
he's
He
got
was in
two-time
college.
MVP. It's crazy. Like, this is
Hardini,
crazy.
do
This
you
is
know
why
what
the
college Bill
NBA
Russell went to?
matters.
But I'm saying,
I
like,
think. Look,
he
I
couldn't
think it
play in the league.
actually.
He went to South.
Let me
He
get
went
like
to South
30
Florida.
seconds. How y'all doing? Let me get like
Go
30
ahead,
seconds.
go. Yeah.
Check this out. I think it boils down to what's up, Low? Big fan, by the way. I think it boils down to more than just black and white. Although it definitely does have.
San Francisco, Eli, by the way.
Although it definitely. Oh, what up?
Yes, sir.
Although it definitely does have in it because the league from the ABA to the NBA and all that merged and whatnot. I think Low has a big point when it comes to the fact that if you don't take something serious, your bar is going to forever be lower than anybody else that does take it serious. There's NBA and G League guys now that are subpar and mediocre that will go in that era and dominate because of their ability to dedicate their entire life to something. If you do something on a 9 to 5 versus 24 hours in a day, the skill level is automatically going to be different. It's not going to be on the same par. So by JJ Redick saying, "Hey, your job was a plumber," like that's what you do, and it's not. I think it's the way that he said it, not what he said. He said it like it was a bad thing when it was just a proven
You're
fact.
just
think
you're just reiterating shit that's already been said though. Like
I think the issue that you landed
on
on is the fact that like it's more about the context or the connotation
Yeah, that's what I'm
than
saying.
it is about
He
like.
said it like it's an insult, but I don't think he meant it on an insulting plane.
No, I think he meant it as an insult. I think everyone.
Say that he does because
Oh
obviously.
no, that nigga meant to be disrespectful.
If you look at that
he
era,
definitely did.
Even if
era,
he
there's
did
no
though, why
comparison.
is that a problem? Like
It's
even if he did,
not
like,
a problem at all.
the
The
Exactly.
insult.
little
It
joke.
shouldn't be an insult when it wasn't like.
It's not whether it's a
an
problem or
option.
not. It's whether Jerry has the right to feel like, hey man, nigga.
I mean,
Yeah,
of course,
Jerry
you're
has the
always
right to
gonna
feel
want to
that way
own
for
up
sure.
to
But
your
when I'm
shit. Like
saying
you're
The
always gonna
problem
want to
is
defend
the
your
problem
era.
is
But the
people.
point is, our era is better. Like
No, no,
our
no, no.
era,
Okay,
today's
wait.
era
No.
is more skilled.
The problem is people flip flop in their opinion because when JJ originally said this, most people agree with him. Now because Jerry West is having a problem with it, now people want to be on Jerry West's side and say that, oh well, you know what I'm saying? That's disrespectful. Bob Cousy was this, Bob Cousy was that, and the era was better
The
than what he was.
context that
It's
the context that
Trey,
Jerry
revisionist.
West
can I
said it
People are
in
being
was.
revisionist.
Can I ask you a question? Do you remember when somebody when they like put color onto Wilt's highlights? How like Wilt got like this big boost for I think it was like last summer.
Yeah, bro, his legacy
People were
got boosted. People were like, oh my god, Wilt's so good.
And it's like these same highlights existed before. They just weren't colored.
Exactly, bro. Like Bob Cousy tape. I'm in an argument with somebody right now because people are saying that Bob Cousy tape don't exist.
Trey, you're not listening. The point I'm making with
No,
that.
I'm listening, nigga.
They said Bob Cousy tape don't exist. Hey,
I know what you're saying. I know what
No,
you're
it
saying.
doesn't. It
Ass.
doesn't. It
They said
doesn't. It's
Will.
just highlights.
He
And like
can't
the
be
All-Star
he
game.
can't be ass because in his era he was one of the better players. You can't say he's ass just because our
No,
Bro,
let,
players
let
yeah.
Eli
are
finish
that
his point,
much
bro. Let
better.
Eli get his point across. I know what he's
My
about to land.
my
I just
point. My
went
point
ahead.
is
My
that
fault, Eli.
my point is that like if I'm Jerry, also Jerry West has talked about like Jerry West is a very interesting person. You guys should read up on Jerry West, like personal experience. If I'm Jerry West, bro, and I knew when I was 25, bro, I am giving JJ buckets, bro. Like even like I'm giving JJ Redick buckets. Like who is JJ Redick? I'm gonna feel some type of way. He's like I'm a plumber, bro. Like I'm a fireman, bro. Because if he's saying he played plumbers and firemen, I played him for 3 years. He must be saying I'm a plumber, I'm a fireman. I'm gonna feel some type of way about that, knowing that it's JJ Redick. Now, if it was LeBron James, what way can I feel about it? But it's JJ Redick. Like I don't know, man. Like I don't know.
I understand what you're saying, Eli, but even then, it's still taking Reddick's words out of context because he would then later elaborated that he was referring to average players, which is why he said the average player today is better than back then. And
I don't know.
I do
I don't know
believe.
if I don't know if Jerry saw that though. He is kind of old. He
Oh,
probably
yeah,
could.
of course. I mean, that nigga, he has other bigger things to be concerned with instead of
Yeah.
fucking first take
Isn't that how?
segments.
Isn't didn't he say that? Wait. Was he with the Clippers when JJ was a player? Somebody look that up, please.
Uh,
I
He
I
doubt
said
it.
that
think
he
he
knew.
might have been
He
for a
said that
year.
he knew JJ personally. He said JJ's a smart kid before he.
I
I
mean, you
think he
can
was with
anybody
them
can
Calling
say
for
that
that
nigga a
a
though.
year.
smart kid is
There's
Sure.
crazy.
there's not much
I mean, compared to
not
him,
much
he's not a
context to
kid,
that.
bro.
But
No. He said I know JJ pretty well. Met him a couple times.
It might have been for a year because I know he was over there.
Hey, Lo, I got a question. When do you think the plumber era like ended? Like, if you had to say like from the 50s to like
57.
the
If I'm
70s.
if I am not mistaken, I think by the time the mid '60s that came along, the popularity of the NBA got to the point where most of the players were like they were earning enough to where they didn't have to withhold it anymore. Because
yeah,
back what was happening back then is that they were it was almost they really the concept of salary cap didn't exist. So like the more and more players who entered the NBA and the more that they communicated with one another, the more that they could have leveraged in negotiations. So it's like it wasn't like the problem wasn't today like back then it was unknown to what players were getting paid because it was just between the player and the owner. So when they call like even both Bob Cousy and even Bill Russell and if I'm not mistaken also Jerry West they speak about like when they got in contact and they got drafted and they're just flat out negotiating numbers like miscellaneous numbers. It's not like they're saying I want a max or I want a vet minimum or I want this. It's just random numbers. And so
yeah,
when more and more people came in and more players contact each other and talked from at least from my understanding of what happened, by the time the mid 60s had rolled around, enough people had the leverage, the proper leverage to like
mm-hmm.
know what to ask for when they came in.
It was the
Yeah.
start of the
I
70s
kind of agree with
specifically
that.
um that people were able to completely quit their day-to-day activities and start playing basketball full time. The 70s is what started that off. Then around the 80s and 90s is when it started getting more heavily influenced as far as
Bill Russell in 1965 when contracts became public, he re-signed for about $100,000. That's worth like that is definitely in the 60s. That's definitely enough to like live a life off of, bro.
but
That's
you're look
living
at who you're
luxury.
talking about. You're
But
talking
that's
about Bill
but yeah,
Russell. You're not
that
talking
was
about the
just
You're
average
talking about
player
the
though.
top of the top.
No,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no,
You're not
no. That's
talking
what
about
I'm.
the
That's
average.
what I'm
I'm
saying.
But
telling you,
what
in the
Eli is
70s is
saying,
when the
but
average
I'm just
player was
talking.
able to
That's
live.
no.
but what
Yeah, that's fair. I agree.
but
I'm saying
what
what I'm
Eli
saying
is
is
saying is right though. Yeah, I want to say it's around the mid '60s is when
when the best players were getting the best players live in luxury based on
no, well
But
not
basketball.
only that, it was
again, we're
just
not
when
talking about the best players. We're
contracts.
talking about the quote unquote plumbers of the era. They weren't able to do that until the 70s and later, when the average Mario Chalmers back then was able, you know what I mean, to get a salary worth
Even then,
taking
there weren't
basketball
that
serious.
like by the mid '60s, there weren't like
Why
enough
Mario
players to where
Chalmers catch a stray?
there
That nigga
weren't
was a
enough
hooper.
there weren't enough but the around this time I'm like I would have to like go through the contracts, but I'm like 99% sure that like just because of the size of the league, the like the 6 man or the 7 man on most benches doesn't get enough where he didn't have to like go work a job at
I don't
Browns.
know, and maybe I misunderstood it, but what Eli just said about like in the '60s and the mid '60s is when they became public. So that's when a lot of players started to have the leverage to just ask for more because they genuinely did not know how much. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't know what to even fucking ask for. It's like, of course, the owner's going to lowball them and use that to their advantage. Them not knowing. So it might have just been when they were more so made aware of it. I don't know. I can't put an exact number onto it, but I know the mid '60s is when everybody in the league was way more equipped to negotiate because the understanding of how much players are getting paid were just more wide known at that point. And it may have been because it was more public than it was before, but yeah, if you just go listen to how they talk about like contracts back then, they were just like picking up a phone or going into an office and numbers are just being thrown. You're like, all right, cool, I'll just sign for that. Not having no idea what anybody else on the getting paid. Not even the slightest.
Apparently Will Chamberlain was like rich before the NBA. Like apparently he was like
Because of
Will,
because of because of
the
the
gold
Globetrotter
star.
thing.
Yeah, he had. I think it was rumored he had me like 65,000. So Wilt has some money, bro.
I don't know the
Yeah.
exact amount, but yeah, he was because he had played with the Globetrotter. I want to say for like 2 years before he actually made it. Before he got to the NBA. So he was already getting paid. He was doing his fucking thing.
Were the Globetrotters
Which
like were the Globetrotters like WWE at that time, or was it like different?
for the most part, it was still a lot of like WWE shit. But from my understanding of how it started, a lot of it was almost like a Negro league, where because it was harder for Black people to get into the sport, that's how it was that's how it was treated. Which is why it was a lot more Black people than any other race. Like it was practically just an all Black league, but it was just not. I want to say league, an all Black team. But
Well,
that's
they had
part
the
of the
ABA
reason.
around too.
Yeah, but the
I was
ABA
because
didn't
I
really
remember
come into play until like the '70s, though.
I remember some
Yeah, yeah.
NBA.
And that's
I
what
rem-
I'm saying. The contracts really boomed once they merged in the '70s.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, I remember. I do remember that like some NBA teams play like they played outside of like Philly. Like I think that there's like games where like Mike was playing like the Harlem Globetrotters, but I don't know. Like I don't care enough about it. I'm not gonna watch 50s basketball. 60s basketball is actually kind of fun, but 50s basketball just sounds
Yeah,
boring.
50 basketball is disgusting. It's nasty, bro.
Yeah,
60s basketball is
It's so
up the court,
nasty, bro.
the basketball your local gym.
60s basketball is
Not
just
the local gym.
up the court. It's so fast, and I don't know. I just like fast paced basketball.
It's
You
a
can find
YMCA.
better basketball. You can find better basketball than 50s ball in your gym, your high school, middle school gym class, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's
That bad.
somebody
That
said
He's
my
not
name? Who
lying.
said my name?
Not lying.
Yo, 70s basketball is like a significant difference, though. I be watching like Dr. J full games. That nigga could hoop, like legit hoop.
Even
No,
like from what
I'm
he's
not.
Dr. J. What do you expect?
Yeah,
we're
I'm not.
talking
I'm not saying
Like
that
I mean,
none
we're
of
talking
them.
about
like
we're talking
all
about
that.
2 decades before, bro. We're
Yeah,
talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
like 2 decades.
yeah, you're right. You're right. My bad.
I'm
But
about
I
to
was watching
say
the ABA.
you may
But
see
yeah,
that
my
Dr.
bad.
J was a scrub. Of course that nigga.
Saying the difference is crazy. Like, from 50 to 60 to like 70s. You like how they get that much? Like they got
They allow
exponentially
Black
better.
people to play.
You right. You right.
No, yeah, that's what
I,
I was thinking.
But
Like with the whole
then
like
you also
plumber
gotta
era.
think about like
Negro
all the
gotta
people.
pass.
If
That's
you have a
literally the
mentor
switch,
and you see what your mentor is
and
doing,
that's why I don't
you want to
fuck
do
with
what he
Bob
could do and
Cousy.
then add to it. So it's just the development of the league got better. So in that gap from the '50s to the '70s, of course it's going to be astronomically different. That shit's is
and let me be fair as well. I mean, there were rule changes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
There
that.
there was a lot of other things that factor in, but even a lot of the rule changes that occurred outside of those miking and Bob Pettit rules, where the lane got wider and they had to bring in a shot clock. But a lot of the other rules that were implemented, it was because how dominant a lot of the other Black players were, especially Wilt Chamberlain. So
Yeah,
like
3 seconds.
that's kind of how to the point is that you had players who came in that were just so overwhelmingly dominant. And up until the '60s, the only two players that were so dominant that it forced the league to really change rules was just Bob Pettit and Mikan. Granted, that's still fairly early on in the game, but by the time like Wilt and Kareem was getting the game and all them other players, like bro, they had no other choice but to change it and evolve it. So again, it still kind of goes to like they allowed Black players to play.
The one rule that I think is like relatively important. It's not really a rule. It's just like it's kind of like how you like call fouls. Like I guess how would you describe it?
The hand checking or?
No, not hand checking. It's not a rule, but like the way that they call it travels or like
That too,
carries
yes.
are way different. Like even like an exaggerated move. Like let's say like off attacking a closeout, like I stride a little too hard. They're calling a travel on it, and I think that affected like some 60s ball, like aesthetically at least.
And
I mean,
that's fair. A part of the reason why the 50s ball look weird when they dribble is because like they would do things that if we watched it, we'd be like, why is that a travel? And to them, it's just they calling it much closer. So that's also fair. But even then, part of the reason why it's even more socially acceptable is because there was just a much broader span of ball handlers that entered the
Yeah,
NBA.
yeah.
So I
You
mean,
I,
it still goes back to them. I mean, it's. I don't want to sound, I don't want to sound like
that
that, but it's,
guy.
it's. Yeah, I don't want to sound like that guy, but it still kind of goes back to
yeah,
them
like
just broadening the horizon of who comes into the
things
league and
things
plays.
change low. And this is like one example I like to use. You know those TikToks where somebody does a move and it's like by if you read the
Yeah,
way
yeah,
that they
yeah,
do it,
yeah, yeah. That
it's
nigga's
not a
crazy.
travel. And
That,
it's like if somebody in the NBA did it, it would be a travel. You wouldn't then be saying, just because the guy on TikTok did it like way before you were like refs would let you do it, that he was better than,
yeah.
James Harden. Like
Somebody should try that shit though. No cap.
I think if anybody would try it, I would have said Harden, but he's kind of
Yeah, I know.
my bad, NMZ, my bad,
All
Harden.
right, all right
Mm,
now, all
eh,
Yo,
right.
NMZ, is
shots
anything you want
fired.
to say? Is anything you want to say? Because I don't want to be in this room too much longer. I gotta eat, so I ain't eating nothing all day. And
Nah,
6:20.
I was just listening, but yeah, I agree with most of what's being said.
50s
I was just while you
basketballs.
guys were talking, late '60s, I guess, was kind of the turning point when they started to receive like medical benefits, pension, and like enough of a salary at the time to make it like their lone job. Because I'm reading, I guess, 10,000 at that time as a salary, 10 to 13,000, which is what they were giving like the newcomers in the league, was the equivalent of like 60K spending power in today's league. So whoever said Bill Russell was making 100K, that's like 10 times what newcomers were making. So that's about 600K spending power wise. So that kind of shifted it, and then everybody that was playing in the league could treat that as their full time job. And then, like someone else mentioned, when their predecessors laid out the foundation of how the game should be played, and the rules opened up a little bit, new players started expanding on their skill set and building on that. So
The
it is
only
what it
reason
is.
I'm sorry, my NMZ.
You good? Go ahead.
The only reason I brought that up is because when I say literally, I mean I just turned in a paper yesterday about this exact topic. Well, it wasn't about the Bob Cousy thing, but it was about the difference between how things evolve over time, and of course, me being on in love with basketball, I chose basketball. So I just did a paper on this, and that was one of the focal points of the essay about how if your predecessor takes two steps and makes like $100, you're going to take those same two steps, but you're going to add your own too, and it's just going to continue to evolve, just like anything else.
Yeah, exactly. And all the modern
You guys think
advancements
Yeah,
over
basketball?
I
time
think
just
that
really helped with
Do you
that
guys
too.
think basketball's gonna get better than what it is as of today, or you
I
think it's
think it's
still
going
like
to get
repeat?
more reckless than what it is
I
today and
think
more
we I think we've
unwatchable.
hit like I think that like when you talk about just like how like physically gifted we are, I think that we've hit like not the limit, but like we've hit like a point where the margin for error isn't very like it isn't huge. Like I don't think we'll see somebody who's lifting 700 like who's lifting like 700 bench, or I don't even know what's a high bench press.
But you know what always not concerns, and I'm always so flabbergasted about if that's the proper word here. I don't know why the fucking free throw percentage doesn't increase.
True.
That is the one thing that has been relative in the like
Yo,
low to mid
that is crazy.
70s
You
for
have a great
years.
point. You
Yeah,
have
the,
a
the
great
free
point,
throw
and
percentage has
it's a video on that too. Like, and I'm just trying to figure out why. Like, why does it
The
not
vid-
increase?
Because niggas
I
not
would
real
say
free
Talk
throw
about
the
the Ben
defenders.
biggest
Taylor one.
Yeah, I would say the biggest issue with the free throws is that if you look at the grand scheme of things as a player, right? Pick any size and weight. If you're 7 foot, the average hooper nowadays is 6'5" to 6'6", right? Of all
That's
the
still the
things
same height as like 1960 though.
I
So
know, but hear me out. Hear me out. Of all the things, especially in this day and age, right, that you have to focus on, free throws would be the easiest. Other than standing under the basket and being by yourself and hitting a layup, free throws would be the.
I don't think that's fine, bro. Like as soon
I
as
think so because I coach now, and the thing I try to drill into my little boppers is the fact that you have to be a good well-rounded game, and what I
Nigga,
hear from them.
pause. Oh my
I don't think
god.
they
Little
were. I don't
boppers?
think
Oh
that.
my
I don't
Little
think that.
god.
boppers?
Yeah,
I don't
don't
think
don't
That's
that
at
they
me,
were.
man.
crazy.
Nigga,
Like,
drilling
Hey,
into my
yo.
boppers is so
Really
Hey
fucking
little
man, they was not letting you
boppers.
get
Come
in that
on,
spot.
man.
I know
Whoa.
what you're saying, but fuck.
Yo.
He tried to
All
say
right,
Nah, what
I
the
know.
fuck?
I'm sorry, but that's such
yo.
No, no, Lo, that's crazy. That
look,
shit
but
is
that's wild.
All right, y'all
nah, that
going
nigga
y'all
shit is
going. Yo, what the
overheating.
fuck?
crazy.
Hey,
Pause.
Don't think we didn't
about
see.
the free throws
Don't think
thing
we didn't
though.
see that playback video from a week ago, man. He was talking.
Yo, you over here taking shit.
He
Somebody
was talking
clip him,
crazy.
clip him.
Yeah.
Clip that nigga, throw it on Twitter.
Oh my god.
Lo was
Yeah,
talking
fuck.
wow, bro. He was like,
Yo, I think I seen that video talking about
yeah,
too.
it was
He was
it was the
tripping, nigga.
who was the
All right, guys. We're talking about basketball, guys. I don't know what's going on. Look, man. Got Philly scary hours loaded. I'm gonna let you go because we're not trying to be here too much longer, man.
Nah,
Jeez,
you're
God.
crazy.
Y'all really took that shit
That
left.
shit
All right.
crazy as fuck.
That boy said, "Nah, don't expose me, please."
Yo, is you gonna go? All right, here you go.
Nah, I'll just be saying like free throws are just like mental. Like it's not it's skill based, but it comes down to mental. So I think that's why it hasn't like improved drastically, even though the skill level improved drastically.
But I did watch a video though where they were explaining about
It's
Shaq's
because
free
Ben
throw
Simmons
shooting.
is lower than the league average. That's why.
And I was gonna say because it's so easy that everybody stretches their focus on everything else that they're like, oh, free throws are
I don't
they're
think that they
free.
were. I don't think they were crazy practicing free throws back then.
And
Though,
that's where
You know what?
I
You
mean,
got a
no, they
great
were
point,
definitely
but it
practicing.
clearly ain't that easy because niggas is not getting better on free throws and they need to.
What I can say is free throws to me. I mean, how much have they really changed versus when we're
they
talking about?
haven't.
They haven't.
They've been
That's the
the same
problem.
distance since
The
I
mark
can
has been the
remember.
same since the beginning
Yeah.
of
So I
time.
mean,
Yeah.
But you're talking about big men though. Like it's all the big men that usually
No,
can't
because
do it.
There
Austin
were
Rivers
big
shoot like
men back then.
65%.
Nah, niggas like Ben
That's
Luka
not
Simmons.
Doncic
correct.
is
You
six
don't
seven. He
get
shoots
you
like
don't
70 something
Niggas like
percent.
No,
it's all
LeBron is
them big
6'8"
ass
and he
The
shoots
wing
league, the
75.
guards
league
that be
leader,
fucking
the
up
league
free
wow,
throws.
leader,
For real,
oh
for
wow.
real.
Will
Them big
hey
ass wing guards can't shoot free throws.
Will
No,
Chamberlain.
there's a science to
Will
it. I've
Chamberlain
watched
led
the
the league.
video.
Will Chamberlain led the league in free throws for basically a decade, and he
Well,
was like
Chamberlain
terrible.
led the league in everything, and he led the hot dog eating contest.
That's
He
the
led the
point
Slurpee drinking contest.
you're not
But
Yo,
to
comparing.
to
hey
to Cameron to
yo,
Cam to
That's
Cameron
Y'all
real
that's
niggas,
why
yo, chill the fuck out.
that nigga said
hold
he's
on,
Joey
to respond
Chestnut.
to Cameron real quick.
the
Yeah,
That's
point
I
I was
think I think
making
I
is
think what you're saying is true. Like, of course, it's harder for big men to shoot free throws, but we've gotten to a point where big men are so adaptable
shooting
and
threes.
inept in other things.
Niggas shooting
They're
threes but
shooting
can't shoot
threes,
75 from the
but they
line.
can't.
This shit
That's what I'm
crazy.
saying. Yeah, like that's where
I
it's
think
kind
it's
of
the
off.
same. I think that basically
Niggas real life shooting league average
what
from
we
three,
what
but
we
shooting under
what we
league average
know.
from the line.
I think that we are. I think that like adaptability when it comes to like shooting threes with like your form is like something that we expanded on, but like around like at least the merger at least like just the core fundamentals of shooting are like in place to the point where there's not like a major change that can happen like even like and I think the reason that like that's fair to like guess is like look at the guys who were hitting like a pretty high percentage from like long two who were big men, right? Like or Brooke Lopez. Look what the Bucks did with Brooke Lopez, and look at where most of his shots are coming from right now. Did his skill really change, or was he just asked to do something different? Like,
He just stepped fucking 5 feet backwards.
yeah,
So I'm gonna add on to that because I watched the video about this. There's like a physics and video talked about like free throw mechanics, and it was for guys that were like much bigger. Like I'm gonna use like Shaq as just like an outlier example, but I don't know if you ever watched him shoot a free throw like with the ball. Like his hands are so big that he had to like
Mm-hmm.
kind of grasp it like he was like holding like an orange,
Yep.
and like so. Anyway, so like there's some video on YouTube. They broke this down that like the players that are like bigger, like Shaq is always like 300 pounds, is big muscle, a lot of muscles. Like obviously it's harder for you to shoot. So they tried to make a comparison that like the bigger and obviously like the more muscle you have, the harder it is to shoot free throws with the mechanics and everything. But I mean, you do have outliers like you said, like Brooke Lopez and other bigs. But I think it has something to do with just
Those
like
aren't the
how muscular
outliers
they are.
anymore, though.
Is that the same
No, it's
video
not.
where they said the
If
bigger your
if
hands are, the harder it is for you to shoot the basketball because
if
it covers
anything,
I think
if
more
because the
surface
man got
area?
big
if
muscles and
any
he can
if
shoot that
anything
shit.
if anything, Shaq is a way bigger outlier than like a Brook Lopez. Like even
Yeah,
No, no,
Giannis.
Shaq is
I was
out
just
here.
using
That
that as
nigga
my
some
example,
shit
but
from
I
the
agree.
line.
Yeah,
Giannis is huge, and he's like a career 67% free throw
I
shooter.
mean, of course, with everything, there's gonna be
Joel
things that
Embiid is the
stand
big.
out. But
Joel
if
Embiid and
it's this,
Jokic are like the biggest players in the league, and they're shooting 80%.
yeah.
So I
I'm just
don't
saying
even think
I'm
that's
not
the
saying it's
difference.
impossible. I'm just saying it makes it way harder.
Well,
Like
it's just I understand you're not saying it's impossible, but with like the current landscape of the league, the biggest players on average shoot around what the guard shoots. So it's not even a
yeah,
talking
and
point.
that's why I think the skill is like it's crazy.
But
Like if you
that
go any
hasn't
of these
changed the
guys,
league average is the point we're
Yeah,
making.
that's
Like, I
what
don't.
we saying. Like there's big men now. Like if what you're saying, I'm not saying is not true. What you're saying is true. The bigger you are, bigger your hands, bigger your muscles, et cetera, the harder it is for you to just shoot. Longer wingspan, right? But what we're
yeah.
saying is somehow, some way that is we found a way for it to translate for us to have more 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot plus players shooting threes, but we somehow have not found a way for these players to be better like free throw shooters. Because
Hey, Flo,
the 3-point percentage has increased noticeably as well as since the beginning of the 3-point line existed. But for whatever reason, it's not translating for free throw shooters.
A
And
big
because
a
niggas
big
like
reason
LeBron
why though
fucking
is
up the
it's not
numbers.
taken
Niggas
as
like
listen,
serious as
listen.
the
LeBron
people
fucking
A
look.
up the
big
numbers.
big reason why though is time in and time out. Like we're talking about free throws, right?
Free
Players
throw
spend a
formers
lot
do
But
the
more
it
same.
just
time.
comes down to mechanics. Like if you're a good
That
free throw
that but
shooter,
that but on top
It's
of that,
what you practice. They practice
players
the
spend a
three
lot
ball
more
significantly
time.
more than the
That's
free
what I'm
throw.
saying. Players spend a lot more time. Like there's a and like overall it comes down. It's like a kinesthetic issue. Not everybody is able to because they have all of the new modern technology, machine learning,
the
AI,
best
all that
trainers,
stuff
everything.
to kind of track that stuff. But they're not spending the best free throw shooter like on the planet isn't a pro. It's like a guy who dedicated his life to figuring out how to shoot free throws. Like he I guess holds like the record for like most made free throws in a row, and he has like a book on this and everything. But basically, he said if pros spent shooting the amount of time I did shooting free throws and like understanding the release angles and all that stuff, they would shoot this good too. But nobody dedicates that much time because obviously NBA players have to be good at other skills as well. That's the reason why not everybody in the league from the free throw line.
And that's what I was saying earlier. The fact that you have so many things, as you said, as an NBA player to focus on, free throws because they're the easiest, quote unquote, the easiest thing in the game other than standing under the basket. You're gonna give a little bit of time to it, but you're not giving your full time to shooting a free throw when you could be training to jump higher, to dunk more, to shoot from further out, to get your handle tighter. You're gonna spend that most of your time practicing on the things that matter most, and then whatever's left is on free throws.
And yeah,
But
it
I
doesn't always
understand that, but
translate.
the reason,
Players way better at practice than they do
yeah, that's
in
true.
game competition.
Which is why I think it's more mental than anything else. But even I agree with what y'all saying. But somehow, some way, over the course of the last 50 years, we found a way to squeeze in better 3-point shooting, and the big men have still found a way to squeeze in 3-point shooting with all the other things that they work on. So I understand what y'all are saying about how you have to just balance certain things, and and maybe it's just because on a per possession basis is 75% from the free throw line for a league average is adequate enough for the NBA as a whole not to spend that much time on it. Whereas the benefit from going from shooting,
Yeah.
33% from
Also,
three to
also, and
38% is
yeah,
such a massive benefit that we're going to spend more
yeah.
time in that and not be that concerned. Maybe
Also,
that's the reason why.
NMZ,
You should get pitch free throw
if,
shooters just like they have pitch
if you
hitters.
compare like how
Dedicate one free throws.
okay,
But
yeah.
no, if
If you
they had
compare
Steph
if you
in their
com okay.
contracts, my bad, Eli. They had
If you
Steph in
compare
their contracts, they
okay.
would start taking free throws serious. My bad. That's all I'm saying.
NMZ, if you compare like how your dad was taught to take free throws, I'm assuming I don't want to make the assumption that he's probably like 40, right? And he was playing basketball like at 12 in the 70s, right? And you compare how you were taught to shoot free throws, there is
Them shit's
practically
the
no
same.
difference.
Yeah, that's
There's
the
no
issue.
difference.
There's no
So
difference. There's no evolution in free throw
I
game.
think that's the bigger thing that there weren't like many like mechanical differences that are like I think people were taught how to shoot long distance shots wrong at some point in their life. I don't think people were taught how to shoot free throws wrong. Like I don't think that when
It's not. It's not that it's wrong though. I just don't think it's been optimized. Like a lot of it is like humans go to the free throw line, right? You're shooting free throws. It's trial and error. You're like, oh fuck, I missed it to the left. You just naturally adjust it, and that's why I said practice time is overall is going to correct most issues. But the difference between Steve Nash and like a 60% big man shooter isn't consistency. It's just the big guy doing the wrong things at the free throw line, as opposed to Steve Nash, who's doing it cleaner at the line, more
well, that's the
consistent.
thing that
That's
like
the big difference.
the difference between like let's say like you're a 59% free throw shooter versus like a 75% free throw shooter is is like that gap is like when it comes to just like how many people do it, that gap is probably like smaller in percentage between like an 80% free throw shooter and a 95% free throw shooter. Like 80% free throw shooters are like readily available. I can find somebody that shoots 80% from free throw without ever who shot 95% from the free throw line for an entire season. It's like Nash, Steph, like it's like the margin of error or like the just like the percentage gap and how in like the best from like the 80th percentile is like way bigger than
Yeah,
like let's say
I
the
agree.
difference
There's
between like a
apps that track those
45%.
things. Like I think I forget the name of it, but like the average just basketball player, even for example, like because college players I think struggle with free throws a lot. For example, if they use those apps and they track kind of like the release angle, you'll see the variation from shot to shot varies more than a guy like Steve Nash, who's a lot more consistent with his shot. And to me, that just again circles back to the same thing. It's time in and time out with practicing your free throw. I think that's what it kind of boils down to for the most part.
But
What did you
I
shoot from the
guess
free throw line, nigga?
oh my god,
That's the
I guess
memory.
my only rebuttal, and not even like really a rebuttal, but just like the point I'm trying to make is that okay, why is it that Marcus Gasol, for example, can go from a point in his career where he's just not shooting ball to then now he's shooting threes and he finished his career off like the last like 5 years of his career. He finished on like 3 or 4 attempts, shooting 37% from behind the arc. But he started his career not even attempting them. Like that wasn't even a part of his game. But midway through, he can switch that. But from the free throw line, he's still shooting like the free throw percentage is relatively the same within that same time frame. So like what I'm saying is like he was able to put in his game mid-career a 3-point shot, a quality one on top of that, but still never I'm like a 79 free throw shooter. I could probably be an 85 free throw shooter. That's what I'm asking. Because I think
Because
that like
what NMZ said, he touched on it. It's really just about dedication and time in. Anybody can go, and when I say anybody, I mean legitimately anybody in the NBA, because nobody in the NBA is a scrub. They made it there for a reason. Anybody who practices one thing hard enough, well
I
enough,
get
and
that, but
long
what I'm
enough,
saying, but why not though? I'm just asking. I'm asking
because
why do you think they don't do that?
look at the importance. I think it's because the importance of the 3-point line was made apparent early on. If you didn't have a 3-point shot, if you don't have a 3-point shot, or at least someone that can be worked on as a big man nowadays, you're not going to survive too much longer unless you're just that great at another thing. If you're a terrible free throw shooter, teams aren't going to like it, but they're like, fuck it. He's a terrible free throw shooter, but he
No,
gives you
no.
14 rebounds, and he
Because
shoots.
those two things are, and I think that this is a bigger like while what you and NMZ said are true, that like I think that at the end of the day that like what you shoot from the free throw line, right, is like there you can improve on it, right? You can get like 5% better, right? But
You
like I
can,
think that
yeah.
there's like hand eye stuff that there's like okay, here's a block, right? Because so much of it is touch, right? Which is why teams do care about your free throw percentage. Because let's say you got to the line in college 5 times and you hit 73% of your free throws and you took three threes and you hit like 29% of them. Like Anthony Edwards, that's legit his exact like he took way more, like 7, but like you got to the line a bunch, you hit your free throws. You took a bunch of threes, you didn't hit a bunch of threes, right? Because like free throws are indicative of touch, right? Like touch is probably the most important thing about it. We can work with your shot, right? Like we can work with your shot. We care more about that than like the raw percentage. I think that like there is like a proverbial like skill limit for like free throws, like for each person.
I think there's a skill limit for anything, but then again, the emphasis on free throws isn't as big as threes or anything else. Prime example, Rudy Gobert shot, he shoots 63, 64%, don't quote me, from the free throw line, which isn't bad, but it's not good either. And if he were to drop, I don't think, well, now the Timberwolves will care that much because of all the things that he provides other than free throw shooting. So the
It
emphasis
would
for
be an
him when he
issue though.
trains isn't let me go work on my free throw. It's let me make sure I can defend this person or let me make sure I can grab these rebounds. Now, of course, should he be working on it? Yes, but that's not what that's not what teams ask of him. They ask
I
of him to defend the
I don't
paint
think you're
and
I
I
get,
get
don't
but
think
boards.
you're
what we're
like
saying,
you're saying the same
but
thing, and I
yeah,
promise I
we're
understand.
we're
Like
all
I
saying the same
promise I'm
thing.
with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all saying the
I think we
same
just
thing.
got to
But
be honest and
my
say time constraints give you a realistic cap. Different.
But even then, like
but what y'all are
niggas work on
saying
their
is,
floater all the time in
that's
the league. Like
what y'all are saying is that it's almost implying that a player who improves at 3-point shooting would then by default have to get noticeably worse at another aspect of basketball
That's how
because
life
they
goes, though. If
but
you
does that actually happen? No,
yes,
that's my question.
like look, or if you put time into all five categories of whatever, right? And then you stop and you put more emphasis on one thing. Of course, whatever you're not practicing is gonna then drop. That's just the natural balance of life. Like if you don't,
I feel like
I
part
don't
of
think
it
that
I feel like
I
part
don't
of
think
it
that
is
happens
training
though.
methods too, because I think when you watch guys practice free throws, for example, it's very hard to like stimulate like a high pressure scenario that's gonna come over to a game
That
because
I think that
guys are
is
just
probably
standing there shooting free throws at practice with nothing there. You know what I mean? Like they're just
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
shooting them. But you see 3-point shooters, for example, and this carries over the same way. We see garbage 3-point shooters in their summer pickup games or just training by themselves. Nobody's there, controlled environment. They're knocking down consistent 3 after 3.
Benjamin
Ben
Simmons.
Simmons. But then you put them in a game and they can't, replicate those results. So the guys that I think it carries over for, you see in their 3-point training, they were able to kind of stimulate those scenarios somehow. They got a guy in their face. They have those like large like hand, those trainers that hold the thing where you got to shoot over it, whatever. You know what I mean? Like you're able to somewhat kind of reproduce a similar scenario to that. I don't think anybody takes that much time or they have the resources, but I don't know if they put in that effort to make their free throw similar to the way to be in a game. And I think that's tough to do, to be honest. I don't think it's a simple thing to replicate.
True. All right, boys, I'm about to fucking end this thing. Sorry to anybody who's been trying to get on. My bad, bro. Sorry,
it's
but
my first time on, so appreciate
Hey,
it.
Lo, you got to work on your free throws, Lo.
okay. All right, nigga.
You gotta record them shits every time so you see you got the same release point.
Okay, all right. Y'all trolling.